Hey everyone, just coming to you with this public service announcement. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. So let me explain. First and foremost, it's free to do so. You don't got to come out of your pocket. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a whole bunch of others platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. That's why I got on it. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, peace.
Hey, this is Ryan Hildreth, and if you listen for the next 10 seconds.
Islam.
Islam.
Islam. What's going on, Moore?
All is well, just enjoying the rising.
Great. Likewise, bro. I was playing your song and I forgot I had it on mute. I was on mute the whole time, and then you came on. I was like, "Oh snap! I've been on mute the whole time." I was trying to play your song "Back to the Grove" prior to you coming on.
Oh yeah, Islam. I appreciate that, man. I'm definitely ready to get some new music out, which it'll be coming soon. The second album.
That's what's up. Yeah, man. So I'm just go ahead and post this in the group. Yeah, I think we good. Hold on. Post this. All right, it's posting. So cool. We can go ahead and what I wanted to do, basically just build on was we had the conversation. Let me see. Yesterday, we had the conversation yesterday. We had a real good build. And what I wanted to go back and kind of at least start on was the aspect about the crucifixion, because in the key, the question is asked about Jesus in reference to being crucified, right? So first, let me refer to that particular key, and then I can kind of set the stage of our build there. So we'll make sure I get to the right key. There we go. Well, first, before we get to that key, I'm gonna like I was telling you before, in our questionnaire, in our Moore's questionnaire, each key leads to another key, or is the follow up from the previous key. So I'll just go ahead and start with key 74 and then go to key 77. And basically on key 74, it says, what did the higher self say to the lower self at one time when he met him? Where are you going, Satan? What was the answer that the lower self gave to the higher self? I'm going to and fro the earth, seeking whom I may devour. Has he finished his task of devouring? Yes. When was his time declared out? When he nailed Jesus on the cross. So in reference to that key 77, when was his time declared out? Of course, his time, we're referring to the time of the lower self being called Satan. When is the time of Satan or time of the lower self declared out? When is it no more? And the answer to that is when he nailed Jesus on the cross. Now we know in the question is asked about the name Jesus, specifically. The key 36 is, what does the name Jesus mean? Jesus means justice. So we substitute the name justice for Jesus. You know what I'm saying? You're basically saying when the lower self nailed justice on the cross. So now breaking that down, we got to get into what exactly is the cross. What does it symbolize? You know what I mean? And just to give a point of representation about the cross, the Mo man, Sheikh Timothy Dingle Hill, he mentioned about a book called Bible Mysteries Revealed. And one of the things he spoke about, or I should say the author of the book spoke about, was the symbolism of the actual cross itself. So I want to touch on some particular points about it. You know what I'm saying? So, all right. If you look at it from this aspect, I'm just going to go ahead here and just speak on it really quick. So, one, I mentioned in a previous conversation that the cross is an alchemical symbol of matter, right? So the cross was used in certain teachings to represent that crossing or the meeting of spirit and matter, right? So if you look at it from that context, being nailed to the cross, and what is crucifixion on a actual metaphysical level, right? So that's the matter, that's the material body, right? In the book of Galatians, chapter 3, verse 13, it says, "Curses everyone that hangeth on a tree," right? And the tree and the cross was used interchangeably in terms of means of what they would call a punishment of death, right? So, but symbolically, that's the material body. Pardon me. And when you get crucifix is a Latin word, and that comes from two words. That's crux, 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 which is a cross, and fix, fixum is a Latin word meaning to fix. So to fix oneself to the cross, you know what I'm saying? When you fix, like if a person has a particular addiction, you know what I'm saying? They have to, you know what I'm saying, deal with that fix. They got to get their fix, right? And so fix is also could be something that's like tied down, like you're going to fix a table to the floor. You know what I'm saying? So it's a binding. Absolutely. So when we incarnate in this carnal body, this material body, we're tied, as is mentioned in our Moor Holy Quran, to carnal life. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just going to read that section where Jesus is having the conversation about, you know what I'm saying, where he's going through the temptation and he's dealing with all of the aspects of dealing with his lower self. That's chapter 15 in the Moor Holy Quran. And just going into that real quick. See here. And it says here, starting from 1 to 3, the harbinger had paved the way. The logos had been introduced to men as love made manifest, and he must now begin his divine ministry. And he went forth into the wilderness to be alone with Allah, that he might look into his inner heart and note his strengths and worthiness. And with himself he talked. He said, my lower self is strong. By many ties I am bound to carnal life. Have I the strength to overcome and give my life a willing sacrifice to men? When shall I stand before the face of men and they demand a proof of my messiahship? What will I say? Right? And just stopping right there. So that bounding to the carnal life is something we all go through. That wasn't unique to Jesus. Because even in chapter 19 of the Circle 7, it says that, what I've done, all men shall do, and what I am, all men shall be. You know what I'm saying? So you have that aspect of basically this crucifix is representation of we fix ourselves to the cross of matter. You know what I'm saying? By clinging to the material animal way of life. You know what I'm saying? The fixation of the mind on the material body. We fixated on carnal things. We're fixated on wealth, things that allure us, lust, you know what I'm saying? Things of pleasure, of physical pleasure. And the whole concept is that the story of Jesus was to be able to rise above that. That's where you get the aspect of the resurrection, to rise again, right? To rise above the carnal self and elevate to the to your higher self. And that also ties in with, chapter 3, where it talks about if man would find his savior, he must look within. And when the demon self has been dethroned, the savior love will be exalted to the throne of power. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like a basic, just brief overview I wanted to kind of just give into that. And you can just add on Islam.
Yeah, because I remember the question had came up because I was asking you what did it mean when he nailed Jesus to the cross, and the question that came up for me, because just everything I've been dealing with and going through, so that question was appealing to me because I was like, what does that mean, from a spiritual point of view or whatever, because I know there's a physical account that we could go over as well, but I was curious about the question because I guess basically, I guess for me on my journey, I realized where I was, where I am at now, and where I'm trying to get back to. So I understand that I took a fall, but I understand it's a part of the process. It's an unfolding process, So that question was appealing to me because I was like, I need to do that. You know what I mean? I was like, I need to nail Jesus to the cross, which is justice. I need to, and that was the thing in my mind. I was like, I need to have, because the hammer is a tool in the workshop of the mind, and Jesus means justice. And so to me, and like I told you, or like we spoke on yesterday, we have a whole chapter dealing with just justice. You know what I mean? So nailing justice to the cross, and that's another image that came up in my head was like, and parallel to that my mind made or my soul made was like, okay, yeah, the body, that I can see that as the cross. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's what made me really interested in the question, and then it just, of course, it got deeper than just the question and answer, but yeah, so it's just a bunch of different things that comes to mind when we think about nailing Jesus to the cross, especially because I was like, yeah, well, the lower self, that's Satan, you know what I mean, in one sense, and so, but another thing that I was curious about is like, why does it say that Satan nailed Jesus to the cross, and that's something else that I'm still, pondering about, is because, why would the lower self, if we speaking from a spiritual sense, why would the lower self nail the higher self to a cross? You know what I'm saying? So it didn't make any, I ain't gonna say it didn't make any sense to me from the spiritual perspective. I would just, because if it's two selves, then why would this one self, why would the demon self place the savior love upon the throne from a spiritual sense is what I was wondering.
Islam. Well, in nailing justice to the cross, the intent is not to put the higher self on the throne. So let me give you an example, all right, to try to put it in our context. All right, let's say you have a friend, someone you may consider a friend or someone close to you, and they're trying to get you to do something that is obviously going to put you in harm's way, or let's say in this case is going to get you in trouble with the law, right? Get you catch a case, go to jail, whatever, right? Now that at that point that we're going to use that as the example, but I'm using, this is correspondence, so as above so below, right? As without so within, right? That friend or that person close to you becomes Satan. Satan is really just a word from the original Hebrew meaning adversary, meaning it's adverse to your true self or your true destiny of being one with Allah. If you look at it from that way, that's all the word Satan means. Satan means adversary. So they may be an intentional adversary or unintentional, unknowing adversary, but nonetheless, they're adverse. What they say and what they do and what they get you to do is adverse to what you truly are supposed to be. In that process, you get locked up. But so look at this. So let's parallel this with the Jesus story. You know what I'm saying? He's crucified. He's sentenced. He's given a sentence. And the sentence is actually a death sentence. And he's put in a tomb, but he rises up out of it. Somehow if you go through that and you learn the lesson, and I'm just using that as the extreme example, like you can use other examples, but if you learn from that lesson, or if you battle and don't make that particular thing your end all be all, you can rise above it. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like, Malcolm Little to Malcolm X type situation where you rise above it. So the intention of the lower self is never to put you on the throne. That's why it says before, remember it says before, what did the higher self say to the lower self at one time when he met him? Where are you going, Satan? What was the answer that the lower self gave to the higher self? I'm going to and fro the earth, seeking whom I may devour. Has he finished his task of devouring? Yes. Right? When was his time to clear it out? When he nailed Jesus on the cross. So his task is to devour you. Right? Your lower self task is to devour you. In other words, but the mistake is made, or the fatal, when I say the fatal mistake, the thing that can't be done is there cannot be a failure of the soul. There's no failure for the human soul. So in other words, while your lower self may try to devour your soul, at some point in time you got to rise above, even if you have to go through lessons over and over again, if that's make any sense. So the intention of the lower self is not to put you on the throne. The The intention of the lower self is to devour you. But what happens is your higher self, the true you, which is a law of man, higher self cannot pass away because that's a law of man, will always triumph in the end. It just may take longer, for some than others. You know what I'm saying? That's my measure of understanding from that context as to the intention of the lower self as opposed to the outcome. So the outcome is, what are after that question is, what are the last words Jesus uttered? It is finished. What did he have reference to? He had reference to the end of Satan, the end of the lower self. Because at that point in time, when you are fit, at that point in time when that crucifixion is placed, when we're using it from a metaphysical standpoint, right? You'll get to such a point where you'll see the illusion of it. You know what I'm saying? Like there's people who can get so much wealth and then they know they're not happy. You know what I'm saying? That's a crucifixion in and of itself. That's another example of a crucifixion. They get a lot of money and they say, yo, I'm not happy. So they forced to turn inward for happiness. Then they, either they find religion, they find, meditation, things of that nature. So that's a crucifixion in and of itself. You going through these carnal ways of life, but at the end you have to rise above that. So Islam,
Mo. Islam. I agree with you, Mo. And that's how I was seeing it too, as well. Is like, I got tired of being, like doing certain things that weren't real, yielding no results. So that's kind of like, the apples to the eye, but it's bitter when you get to the core. It's death and misery. You know what I mean? So it just. Yeah, and that's how I see it. Like, if we go beyond the poles of duality, and that's how I look at it as well, is beyond the poles of duality is, what I'm saying, if we, the true self, the spirit self, if, we watching, I'm watching myself go through this, and that's why I like when the moment said, all of life is, when he was quoting, all of life is but a stage, and that's how I see it, because I'm sitting here watching myself go through these certain things, knowing, whether right or wrong, knowing that I already know, you know what I mean, and still making those decisions. And that, that's when I realized, I said, well, it took me a second to realize who was really making moves when speaking for self, and just how like it really wasn't going nowhere. So, I just seen it, from beyond the poles of duality. I was looking at myself, and that's why I said I was like, yeah, I need to do that. You know what I mean? Because I'll just basically, when I hear the word fixed, I think of astrology as well, like fixed signs. They say they're good to put in place. You know what I mean? So that's, like I said, that's why I said, putting justice, nailing justice to the cross, or like you said, fixing that. That way, that way we can start demonstrating those types of behaviors and actions. Not that they haven't been, but I'm talking about to the full extent, like really doing away with the old self. And at first, I didn't realize how much of a fall I had taken, but through these lessons and degrees, which, like you said, victory is sure. Like, they could never fail us. So, and they meant to raise us up, which they have. So, it's just, like I said, it's a part of the process. It's a part of the unfoldment. And that's something else that came to mind for me, is because I seen what I'm unfolding into. You know what I mean? I seen who I was, and I seen how it's still there, and then I seen who I was unfolding into. So, just yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Mo. And then another sense that I was looking at it too, which, like I was speaking on those revelations that was coming to me. It said, it's referring to Satan and the crucifixion of Jesus, and it says that the Romans were the first ones to crucify, the Christian church, the Romans, they was the first one to crucify Jesus of Nazareth, so I look at that as Satan as well, because there was a certain ideology or strange teachings, coming from a certain group of people, you know what I mean? Whether it was passed down to them or not, that's really, you know what I mean? That's just a matter of doing, your own study and seeing where that takes you. But I also look at that as being part of Satan because of the Byzantine Empire, and, basically how Noble Drew Ali came basically to finish the lower self off, and that's why he said he gave us everything it takes to Islam. It takes to save a nation. So take it and save yourselves. So I just been going over all of these things, but I knew, like, just in my mind, I was like, yeah, this certain things have to be done. And when we think about nation and we honor Confucius, the nation starts with us. He also said the power is invested in my hand, and I have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. But the nation begins with us, and we know, and we have our laws from the prophet. So that's just a part of the process. Something else that has to be fixed, or you know what I mean. So, and I parallel that with something I seen a few years ago. It's a saying. I don't really know who it comes from. I just seen it posted one time on a chalkboard, and it says, I see, said the blind man to the deaf dog, and then he picked up his hammer and saw, but it's not saw as in see, but it's the saw as in the tool, you know what I mean? So yeah, with that being said, Mo, that's just that's where I'm coming from, and that's how I seen it, and that's how this question got sparked as far as what did it mean when Jesus was nailed to the cross. Islam.
Islam, absolutely. And you made a good point, and I want to touch on that earlier. You talked about the fixed signs, and that's also true, because to add on to that, the fixed signs in the astrology, you have Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. I'm sorry, Aquarius. So that's Earth. Correspondingly, that's Earth, fire, water, and air signs. Those are the fixed signs, and when you look at it in a circle, the astrological circle, they make a cross. You know what I'm saying? That each one is a polar on the opposite end of the pole. If you was to draw a line, that is also the cross. And the qualities of a fixed sign, on one hand, it's determined and on the strength, but on the weakness, it could be stubborn. You know what I'm saying? So like a person is fixed to do something, they're determined to do something, but then they're not mutable in the sense of being adaptable in that context. So that also, kind of brings another aspect to it. You know what I'm saying? And if you look at it from another way, when you add the aspect of nailing Jesus on the cross, justice, right? If you deal it from justice is usually equated with the sign of Libra, because that's the scales. You know what I'm saying? So, that also has a determination as well in the context of, what we're saying with that. So I just definitely wanted to add to that, you know what I mean? Like, when you deal with correspondence, everything definitely can be applied based on perspective, because there's so many different levels of how to, we've been given so many different tools by which to kind of work our life's tasks. You know what I'm saying? Modalities and, these ancient sciences on how to truly study ourselves. You know what I'm saying? That's the beauty of more science. It's, while it's given to us so simply, it can be taken and expanded, really to infinite levels. As you go out, you can see more science and everything. You know what I'm saying? And in everything. And in more science, you see everything. So it's kind of that type of thing where we have to, like you said, you get to a point where you don't want to keep chasing, you know, chasing the dream and running in circles. You know what I'm saying? You want a level, really just of peace. You know what I'm saying? Like it says in chapter 46, all nations, want peace. You know what I mean? But there's only one true way, and that's through love, true peace, freedom, and justice being taught universally to all nations. So those principles, those 5 principles of love, true peace, freedom, and justice. Again, justice is always there because we offer love, truth, peace, freedom. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Always, those principles are like pretty much guides for us to move through this world. You know what I'm saying? And that keeps us in harmony, and that is the higher self. The higher self is the mother of the virtues and the harmonies of life and breeds justice, mercy, love, and right. So we always have to keep that in mind. And like I said, just to drive it home again, this is, we all go through the crucifixion. It's not just it's just not confined to one person approximately 2,000 years ago. It is a story. Like even in Circle 7, it says, he said, my life is one great drama. So a drama is basically a story that kind of gives a moral or it's an enactment of something that we're to take from. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to look at the drama and see yourself in the drama. You know what I'm saying? As it plays out, you know what I'm saying? Like, how is it applicable to you? You know what I'm saying? Not something, look at it, okay, well, that's just something that person did. You know what I'm saying? So these are things where we can use these tools, you know what I'm saying? It's tools of the workshop of the mind to work on ourselves and on the temple of perfected man. So I just wanted to just add that on. And I'll yield the floor if you had any questions or anything you want us to build on. Islam.
Mo. And just to make things, even more clear than what they already are. They say salvation is a 3-step ladder reaching from the heart of man to the heart of Allah. Belief, faith, and fruition. And sometimes, I feel like we get those glimpses or certain moments where we get to enjoy the fruition. But for me, on my journey, for myself, I had put the tools down, thinking I was out, kind of thinking I was good from what I already knew, not really understanding that, you can't stop. And that's why, we always speak on consistency. So because when you stop, and you know what I'm saying, it's like we spoke on that part of the brain that only deals with images. It filters out everything else you don't need. So when you let certain things through your gates into your temple, you know what I mean, those are the images that we impressing on our minds. So eventually we're gonna express it, you know what I mean, in some way, shape, or form. But me thinking, I was straight, I was good, which in our reality I am, because we was given a body and a soul for certain reasons, you know what I mean, to learn certain things. But I see that, you know what I'm saying, outside, apart from Allah, although, we know what wisdom is, but still, you know what I'm saying, the Allah, the great God, right? Outside of Allah, like we really can't, there is no happiness. There is no peace. There is none of that. There's falsehood reverse. And for me, That's why I say I'm climbing back out of a watery grave. All right, during my incarceration period, okay, I didn't have the same temptations in there that I do now, and it's been years since I've been released. However, that was my period of reflection. You know, being a business man, that was my period of reflection that caused me to say, you know, hey Mo, you're not on your dean. You're not on your dean like you used to be. You know what I mean? I knew things about heart that you know I'm a little rusty with now, but I'm getting back to where I was. That's kind of why I came up with Back to the Grove too, what you spoke on earlier. And the hook, you know, it says, where you going, Mo? Back to the Grove. You know I can't stay. You know I gotta go. Flowing like water. Walk through the gates. My trials got harder. You see what I'm saying? So, and that's just, I say that because, you know, they told Jesus he reached the greatest depths before he could reach the greatest height. So, you know, he had those buffetings of all kinds, and perfected man must pass through all the ways of life. And, you know, I went to Detroit seeking admission to one of the temples, and I was denied. And the brother told me, he said, I'm trying to find the reason to let you pass. You know what I mean? Because I kind of came off incorrectly. I didn't approach him, you know what I'm saying, because I wasn't on my dean like I thought I was. And I'm glad that the brother handled the situation that way, because he showed me that I wasn't on my dean like I thought I was. And that's what led up to the question of, because you mentioned justice in the 4 points and those 4 fixed signs. So I was kind of fixed with the little bit of, we can call them pearls that I had, you know, the pearls that I had got, you know, or you know, show them off, the pebbles, or however you want to say it, you know. But yeah, that's what led to the 101s. And that's what, because I was speaking, I was like, yeah, man, serving justice, I'm tired of this. I was like, you know, I'm tired of being merciful, even though, you know what I'm saying, we know what the higher self breeds, you know, justice, mercy, love, and right. I said, I'm tired of being merciful, it's time to serve justice. And I'm not understanding y'all, I'm serving justice on self. You see what I'm saying? And my thing was as well, like, you know, I was at that first, I'm coming out of the belief stage, you know, 'cause I did some things similar to the story in the Bible where they tell, I think it's one of the men, they go back, he tell one of the men not to look back. You know what I mean? Allah's leading him on, he told him not to look back, and he looks back for his wife and stuff like that. So it's a similar demonstration that I went through that ended up causing me to, you know, get off my dean and away from my tools and things of that nature. And now I'm at the realization that, okay, we was in a state, I was in a state, part of Islam, I was in a state of belief. And now, and to keep it 100%, you know, keep it 100, as they say, now I'm dealing with that second step, which is faith. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of people, and I even learned this from helping people with their businesses and stuff like that. The 2 most crippling things I've ever seen anybody deal with, regardless of how strong they are and how tough they are or what they can do with they can have an amazing skill. The two most biggest obstacles I ever seen anybody deal with is fear and procrastination, and we know those are the lower self. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a fear of putting, you know what I'm saying, putting your faith in Allah. You know what I mean? Because that means you got to let go of a lot of things that was sustaining you, you know what I mean? You know, helping you eat and things of that nature. It's a lot of those things that you have to do away with and really put your faith in Allah in order to come out of those conditions. So it's not that I never believed, I always believed. It's just that I wasn't aware that, you know, hey, you got to make it to that second rung. You got to get, you know, you got to get back to where you was, which was leading up to fruition. And that's when man has, you know, he can live that godly life. And with that being said, Mo, I really feel like, you know, that just wraps everything up on my end as far as how we got to, nailing Jesus to the cross and what it means, and how I can assist myself as well as others along the way. And I feel like, the main thing from the whole, discussion is to have faith in Allah and really understand that it's a process, and that's why it's an unfoldment. So we can't just go from belief to fruition. We could know something and we could believe something, but that fruition is that, is that demonstration, like you said, when Jesus went into the when he was dealing with himself, and he asked them, what would be your proof of your messiahship? That's the demonstration, the actions, the deeds, of deific life. To me, that's fruition. And with that being said, Mo, I yield the floor. Islam.
Islam. Yeah, brother. I just want to say, yeah, to add on to what you're saying, when you talk about the 3 steps, right? That the 3 steps across that ladder, as we already know, belief is first, and this is what man thinks perhaps is truth, and faith is next, and this is what man knows is truth. Fruition is last, and this is man himself the truth. Belief is lost in faith, and in fruition, faith is lost. You know what I'm saying? And man is saved when he's reached the deific life. That means the life of the deity, or the life of God. You know what I mean? You get to that God-man state of God. So when we're looking at belief, right? If you think of it, belief being what man thinks perhaps is true, right? To think something may be true, or you accept it as true without really knowing it. You know what I mean? That's the first step. You know what I'm saying? In order, you have to take that first step. Getting into that faith step, you know what I'm saying? That knowing, right? That's where the studying comes in. You know what I'm saying? That's why it says in the circle 7, where Elihu said, if you were to ask me what to study, I would reply yourselves. You know what I'm saying? And you have well studied them, and then would ask me what to study next, I would reply yourselves, right? He who knows well his lower self knows the illusion of the world, knows the things that pass away, right? And of course, if you know your higher self, which is the polar opposite, you know well the things that cannot pass away. So it's about knowing the truth and falsehood, the reality, the ultimate reality, and the illusion. So what we get into is you have to study both selves. You know what I'm saying? You can't. We have to know this carnal body that we're in. You know what I'm saying? That gets back into the whole conversation we had happened about dealing with the metaphysical meaning of the crucifix. You know what I'm saying? The cross meaning the material body, right? You have to know it, because you have to know when that part of you, that self, is operating. You know what I'm saying? You have to recognize that whatever that thing you're doing or thought coming, where it's coming from. Is it coming from the realm of the carnal self, or is it coming from the realm of the higher self, the divine self? And that's a constant study. You know what I'm saying? The constant study, because we're in this body, you got to look at it like this. Because you're in this body, you can't just assume, all right, it's like you in a car. I always liken this, like you in a vehicle. You can hop in a brand new whip and you driving it. You know what I mean? You can do it, you can go in reverse, go park, you do all this other stuff, but there's a whole bunch of other features you may never have took the time to look at, and then you could be a month, a year later, and you'd be like, oh snap, look what I just came across. You can actually do this on the car, right? It's the same thing with your body. It's the same thing with studying yourself. there's so much to learn about ourselves. And one thing that we have to get to a place is where we can constantly take the time to study, because we're putting in this, like you said, when you in this cares of the world, we're conditioned to not study ourselves. We're conditioned to just go. You know what I'm saying? I had the conversation on my show, More Science Talk, where I spoke with the elder, and he was speaking about that. You know what I'm saying? That's why he was speaking about in the Circle 7, act as thy soul dictates, and it will lead you right. Because you have to be in a state where you are so in tune with your soul, so in tune with your higher self, that it can guide you aright. At the same time, recognizing this carnal self, this lower self that you in, which you do need while you're on this plane of things made manifest. While you're on this physical plane, you need the body, and the body does need food. It does need certain things to keep it going. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to go insane, but it's keeping that balance at the same time. So that requires study. You know what I'm saying? That requires an intense study. That's where meditation comes in. The brother just hit me up yesterday morning and asked me, the question he asked me was, what practices do I use to employ the wisdom? You know what I'm saying? And the two that I gave him was meditation and breathing. You know, what people call today breath work. You know, there's all different types of breathing techniques and breathing systems, but that's spoken about throughout our Circle 7, which is the holy breath. You know what I'm saying? Man is breath made flesh. You know what I'm saying? And that is also the other name that we give to truth. And the word spirit comes from the Latin word spiritus, which means truth. So we're spirit, we're breath. You know what I'm saying? And that breath, you know, as it says in the book of Genesis, the breath of life is what keeps us here. Once that breath goes out the body, we no longer are physically living. So, and there's a life force within that, you know what I'm saying? That's where your Tai Chi, your Qigong and all that comes into play. But my whole point of that is just to add on to what you're saying, is that we always have to take the time to study ourselves in a real intentional manner. You know what I'm saying? And it goes beyond books. The books are the start to get you to recognize the fact that there is something in you that you need to study. You know what I'm saying? And as you study yourself, that's the only way you can truly know yourself. And once you know yourself, you can be yourself. You know what I'm saying? And that's the fruition. You know what I'm saying? Like, as it says, fruit. Something as a fruit, bearing fruit, it starts with a seed, right? And the seed is a thought. You know what I'm saying? And the divine thought is infinite thought. It's eternal. So I just wanted to, just add that on in, excuse me, pardon me. With that in conclusion, I just want to, definitely give you honors and gratitude, for the build, you know what I'm saying, on this Saturday morning. You know what I'm saying? Definitely, it's always good building with you, brother. Slam.
Islam, I definitely appreciate the build. I appreciate your divine time and the whole nine. Yeah, you're definitely right, man. I always got to study self, and never stops. And yeah, I was thinking, like what's the science for the day? The science 7 days a week, 7 days
Yeah.
a year. The science 7 days a week or 7 days a year is to study self. So, like you
Yes.
said, it's not nothing you just put down and you gotta be, you gotta be careful because the lower self, title to Satan get to himself God, you know what I mean? So, I always had those little situations like, hey, yeah, you could do this, but do it that way. Victory is sure, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, that was
Indeed.
just playing self, you know what I mean? But Islam, all is well. I appreciate your divine time and your divine wisdom, and we'll definitely do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, yeah, appreciate you. And I see we also have two guests on, so I appreciate everyone who joined in on this. And till next time, divine peace and love. Peace and
Peace
love.
and love.